Hey everyone, welcome to the Secret Skeleton Book Club. In today's episode, we're going to be taking an introductory look at Kamen Rider, a Japanese TV show which I happen to love. Now if you're wondering what the heck is a Kamen Rider, then you're the exact target demographic for this video. Thank you for clicking. The easiest way to explain it would be karate bugmen, at least that's what the subreddit would have you believe. But I think there's a little bit more to it than that. If you want an easy answer as to why Kamen Rider is so popular, we should probably start by analysing it at a surface level first, by looking at the visuals of the show. Answer number 1, it looks cool. Kamen Rider is what you would call a tokusatsu show, which by their very definition have a unique sense of aesthetic. The main thing that unites the current popular shows of the genre is the usage of special effects, particularly traditional live-action in-camera effects, CG, and elaborate suit designs, props, and also several rock quarries utilised as sets. These set pieces work together to tell stories of superheroism, sci-fi, and fantasy. If you ever watched Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as a kid and thought that the suits or weapons were cool, then Kamen Rider's suits and weapons have them beat by sheer boldness at their worst, and at their very best are remarkable for their sleek designs. Essentially what I'm saying is, a lot of Kamen Rider's appeal lies within its visuals and production design. If this weren't true, why would they spend so much time in the design of each new version? For fans of the show, the aesthetics and how they change form a major piece of why they keep watching. Mileage may vary with this one, of course, but I would suggest that even when the aesthetics of Kamen Rider don't match up with your personal preferences, there's still a certain charm to it. Although modern Kamen Rider shows use a lot of questionable computer-generated imagery, a majority of the show will still be constructed with pieces that have a tangible feeling to them, which is impressive in a media landscape that often fails to deliver upon exactly that. This definitely isn't the most important part of Kamen Rider, but if you're looking for reasons to care, then I think knowing that the world it immerses you in is one of frantically energetic and frequently well-designed characters, costumes, and scenarios helps. This is something that underpins Kamen Rider's overall quality. The key visuals of Kamen Rider and how they continue to evolve over time is so essential to the series' soul, giving each show a unique look and identity, with one core piece of conceptual design essentially revisioned over and over again. The show's ability to evolve visually is a symptom of its basic need to evolve generally, as it's lasted quite a while. Kamen Rider began in 1971, created by manga artist Shotaro Ishinomori, who also created and developed the visual identity for other popular tokusatsu show, Super Sentai. The concept of Kamen Rider having an insect motif was designed to distinguish it from Ishinomori's other creations, in particular his creation Skullman, which the show was originally planned to be an adaptation of, and it's surprisingly something that has stuck around for quite a while, even all the way to the currently airing series where the grasshopper influence is still pretty clearly present. But all that's to make the point that the show has a compelling lineage, one that can be seen in its visual design, one which it pays close attention to paying respect to, and draws inspiration from a variety of other places, collecting and shedding pieces of inspiration along the way, but never forgetting where it started. All of what I've mentioned so far could be considered by many to be window dressing. After all, if a TV show doesn't have good storytelling first, then what does it have? Is Kamen Rider worth watching based on the story it has to tell? The answer to that is yes, probably. I won't lie to you, Kamen Rider's storytelling appeal will of course vary wildly based on what sort of stories you enjoy, as well as the particular show in the series you decide to jump into. Kamen Rider stories typically involve a plucky young guy with a strong ambition, suddenly granted the mysterious power to transform into a Kamen Rider, and pulled into a world where they're forced to confront a variety of villainous monsters or fascists or goblins or whatever. They then encounter some sort of global conspiracy and make a lot of friends along the way as they gain upgrades to their suits and fight unique monsters every week to eventually thwart a larger scale threat. This sort of story would be easy to dismiss as something inherently stupid or basic, especially when its approach to merchandising is so obvious. And don't get me wrong, Kamen Rider is stupid, and that's not a bad thing, but it's certainly not basic, at least not all the time, that's for sure. Even though it's silly, it can't exactly be considered equivocal or dull in its approach to telling interesting stories. It has a few things in its favour that I think keep the concept of it engaging for a wider audience. In particular, I think Kamen Rider has found continued success due to 3 things: a good tonal balance, evolution, and a strong set of themes. The show strikes a delicate tonal balance. I would argue its core appeal lies somewhere between the enjoyment you might get from the following things. In essence, Kamen Rider in its modern form plays a fun balancing act between tightly choreographed action, goofy antics and characters, and sometimes intense melodrama. In the same way that Metal Gear Solid juxtaposes scenes of emotional catharsis with scenes of strange stuff, Kamen Rider, particularly in the Heisei era, runs the same kind of emotional balancing act, jumping from high-octane action to more serious moments to bizarre comedy, all in the same scene. This varies with show to show, however, and I think some of Kamen Rider's outings tip the balance more towards one particular sense of tone, while still shifting it. But that never feels out of place, and if you don't like a particular flavour of Kamen Rider, then you have plenty of others to choose from. This leads into the second part of Kamen Rider's continued appeal, which is down to the show's continued evolution of concepts. A lot of what Kamen Rider fans care about is seeing the formula of the show adapt and change over time, with each season of the show taking the core concept of a masked vigilante bugman who rides on a motorbike and kicks people, and adapting it into some sort of wider, often weirder idea. For example, Kamen Rider Double is all about a hero who is actually two people who fuse together to form one hero, with a loose detective theming and a lot of conspiracy and USB sticks that you insert into yourself to gain powers. It's a bit weird. As another example, Kamen Rider Ghost is all about a guy who dies and then finds himself blessed with a cheeky resurrection, and told if he wants this to be a permanent resurrection, then he better go and collect some balls, which are actually the heroic spirits of various historical figures. I'm essentially trying to say they're all different, and that's a good thing. They've been given the creative freedom to explore interesting and goofy interpretations of the same basic idea. In particular, Kamen Rider's modern incarnation touches upon several key thematic elements that continue to elevate the status of Kamen Rider as a hero, and not just a hideous bugman. As an example, the show Kamen Rider Build is all about identity, and to some extent what it means to wear the mask of a hero. In order to fully explain why, I'd have to spoil the show, but I don't want to do that. So in the vaguest possible terms, a midway story revelation forces our hero Sento to confront the fact that the identity he knows of himself may not be what he thought it is, and this forces him to come to terms with all sorts of difficult truths. In fact, he's presented with a whole new set of identities to consider. In a more general way, Kamen Rider is about identity in the sense that Kamen Rider embodies the idea of the individual. The Kamen Rider, often working as a sole figure before teaming up with others, stands out figuratively speaking in order to take a stand against the evils of the world. This is then represented more literally through the opposition of the Kamen Rider as a sole figure against sometimes overwhelming numbers of aforementioned evils. In addition, to be a Kamen Rider is to strip away one's own identity in order to become a hero. In place of receiving any form of credit for saving the world, most Kamen Riders are happy to be recognised as exactly that, in the spirit of true vigilantism. Kamen Rider also has a lot to say about loss and overcoming adversity. Whilst a lot of superhero genre stories are content with glossing over death or establishing resurrection rules that lower the tension a bit, Kamen Rider isn't always afraid to have permanent character deaths or sincere moments that touch upon what it feels like to lose someone. But what can we learn from all this as a whole? In essence, Kamen Rider is a show that isn't afraid of what it is. As a goofy kids show with a soft focus on selling toys, Kamen Rider strives to tell the most engaging stories it can. It's also just as willing to be unapologetically silly in its tone, aesthetic driven, and completely obsessed with its own history. It's rare to see a Kamen Rider show that has stumbled. It can therefore easily be understood as a confident show, and this might be part of the reason it's so beloved to this day. People from around the world enjoy Kamen Rider because of this confidence. It exudes a triumphant energy, even when what is on screen seems absolutely nonsensical. In a way, it stakes a claim in the modern superhero genre, as an alternative to the kind that dominates the box office. Kamen Rider is a superhero with a smaller scale and a lower budget, with a more niche focus and demographic, but somehow maintains a level of artistic confidence that vastly outscales most modern blockbuster superhero movies. I think for a Western audience this is refreshing, and for the actual demographic of Japanese children, it's popular because it's just as culturally ingrained as other types of superheroes are in our culture. If you enjoy any of the things that make up part of Kamen Rider's DNA, there's a good chance you could enjoy it. It's certainly a fascinating show and one that deserves more of a push for licensing in other regions. Kamen Rider is a show that would be easy to take a cynical view on. As I've said, it's essentially a toy commercial, as many shows aimed at kids are. Despite this, when I look at Kamen Rider critically, the prevailing theme is passion. The artistic confidence I've mentioned seems to be born from a passion for making it, as well as a passion from an international community of fans who adore it. It's the sort of passion that would be easy to interpret as cringy, the distilled essence that makes things like Kingdom Hearts Parking Lot hard to watch. But just as the kids in that video don't seem to care about what other people think and continue to dual wield their umbrellas as if they were keyblades, Kamen Rider also marches on, unfazed by the people who might think its excessive wordplay is getting a bit dumb now, and I think that's evident in almost every iteration of it, a burning desire to continue a heroic tradition.